Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Smart Trucking Live. Glad you could all join us today. Kyle's here. Kelly Patterson's here. Matthew Thomas is here. Good comment, Matthew, and I will get back to you in a second on that comment. James Cheeks is here. Eric's here. Shannon. Hey, Shannon. How you doing? From Casper, Wyoming. Hey. Alan Johnson's here. Kelly Patterson. Did I say Kelly Patterson? Well, he's here anyway. Kelly, glad to see you. Looks like Shannon's getting some snow up in his neck of the woods, and James is in North Carolina, and he says it's in the 80s down there. Heck of a spread. Kelly's on his way to South Carolina, York, South Carolina. Tim Fields here. Grilled Mortal is here. I could tell you stories about trucks that were so poorly maintained I had to replace rusted out oil filters, including one on the diff. Wow. Oh, I know it. Flash is here. Anyway, Paul Hudson. Hey, Paul. How you doing? Hello from soggy Illinois. Been off and on rain for 2 weeks, he says. Yeah, that's pretty much what we've been getting here, too. Matthew Conrad. Good afternoon, sir. Matthew's in Illinois. Sonol is here. Container Guru is here. Hello from home in Florida. Jonathan's here. Jonathan Mestrel. Hey, Jonathan. How's it going? Daniel Ford's here. Andrew, is that Pfeiffer? Is here. Good afternoon, sir. Hamish K., we were just talking about you. How are you doing? Glad to see you. I figured you were off driving, and that's why we hadn't seen you for a little while, but glad you could join us. Dead Dog Rising. There's a handle. Hello from Tacoma, Washington. Hello, Dead Dog. Cuban 960 is here. 17 years old and already interested in trucking. That's when I started, or maybe a little before that, Cubano. So nothing wrong with that. Scott Kuhn is here. Peter Omart is here. Daniel Ford, I believe I said Daniel already, and Matthew Conrad. Yep. Glad you guys could join us here. There's Fred. Fred Besmer from Laramie, Wyoming. Roads finally opened up again. And Josh Bulldog after a short hiatus. Hey, Josh, how are you doing? Chase the Masters here. What was I going to go back to Fred's? Fred's been shut down by the sounds of it on I-80. Probably because all the snow that Shannon was mentioning. I believe Shannon mentioned, too, there are a number of highways closed through that neck of the woods through Wyoming. Seems early to be getting snow like that already. I guess that's why Colorado puts their chain laws up like October 1st or whenever they do it. They do it early, but you can see now why, because sometimes the snow comes early. Anyway, I guess we'll jump right into it here. And I want to start by Matthew Thomas's comment was, best way to make an engine last is to keep up on the PMs and not dog out the engine. Yep, Matthew nails it there with that comment. But there's all sorts of things, and I want everyone to join in, because you guys all have different methods for keeping your particular engine lasting, like guys with Detroits will know things that they need to do, and guys with the Cummins motors will need to know what they do. Like SoCal Sandman, he's not here yet that I've seen, but when he jumps in there, he'll be able to tell us all the things he's done to keep his motor maintained. Cats, like what I ran, completely different setup, but I've got all sorts of ideas on how to keep them lasting. And you know, there are new engines in the game now, like Packard, and there must be some secrets to keeping those going as well and making them last. Even though they're all relatively new engines, they've all had time to put over 1 million miles on them by now. And we're going to talk about some of the ways to do that.
Alan Johnson, thank you very much for the membership if you're in chat right now. Hamish K coming in with the membership renewal. Good to see you back, my friend. Thank you very much for that. And Jonathan, happy 8 months, my guy, to the people that said no on the survey. I imagine what you mean there. Thank you for the 8 months, Jonathan.
Kyle said the only people who say no to the poll question are farmers who don't care. A slam against the farmers. Anyhow.
So speaking of polls.
Yes, speaking of polls, the last number I saw pop up was 95%. Was 95% in favor of spending the time and the money in keeping their engines up. So we're in mass agreement on that. However, probably when I think of the things I did, and I've got over 1 million miles on my engine now, over 1,100,000. When I think of some of the practices that I maintained, and I've done this with all my engines, not just this last one, because I treat them all the same. I baby them all. But one thing I did was regular oil changes, and I even did them. Some people would consider them early because the manufacturers would say, "Oh, you could go to 15,000 or 20,000 miles before oil changes." I always religiously changed my oil at 12,000 miles. Now, something new, relatively new, that's in the mix now are the synthetic oils. So clearly, you don't need to do the oil changes as often. And the number I keep hearing these days is about 50,000 miles to change synthetic. As I say, I like to change them early, so I'd probably bump that down a little bit. But something else I'd like to say in regard to oil for making the engine last is my understanding is that the new green diesel fuel that we run now, the low sulfate diesel fuel, doesn't lubricate the engine as well as the old style fuels. So I'm thinking in my mind that part of the bright side of synthetic oil, using synthetic oil now, will be to help keep that engine lubed up internally, because that's been lost from the fuel. So maybe the synthetic will help make up for that. That's my hope anyway. That's my theory.
Hamish, thank you very much for the 2 pounds, by the way. Good to have you back.
Something else that I always did, and now you see all the manufacturers going that way with their gearing and stuff like that, is to run lower RPM. And obviously, the fewer revolutions per minute the engine turns, the slower it's going to wear out, because every stroke takes away from the life of the engine. So if you can lower the number of strokes that the engine takes, the engine logically will last longer. So I think running low RPMs is a big secret to keep. Now, don't lug them, because that hurts them too. Find out the operating range, the peak operating range for your engine, know it, and run in there. Run in that power curve.
Jonathan, thank you very much for the 5 beans. Freightliner says to change your oil every 70 or 75K. If I'm not mistaken, it can't be good for the engine. They just want you to buy the parts, most likely. Thank you for the 5, Jonathan.
Yeah, I like that comment. But yeah, I'd been hearing more like 50,000 with the synthetics, but yeah, I don't think I'd want to. I think the manufacturers. Well, Freightliner doesn't even make its own engines, really. Another division does within that. But I think they try to stretch out the oil intervals as a selling point to perhaps the big fleets that think, oh, that's even better, But I don't think I'd drag it out that far if it were me. But I think they use that as a selling point to big carriers. That's my theory, anyway. Grilled Mortal says, I change the diff and tranny oil once a year. And that's a good practice too. That's a good practice as well. There's no such thing as changing the stuff too early. There's the cost of it involved. But you've kind of got to weigh that with, the life of what you want the truck to do, the life expectancy you're hoping for. And different engine manufacturers will recommend different things that they want. Maintenance intervals, I guess, is what they're after. I know for my particular engine, I kept a close eye on the turbo and the oil line to the turbo line, and in the space of a million miles, I'm on my third turbo, and I change the oil line to it every time I swap the turbo. Cat recommended doing the injectors at 800,000 miles. Jonathan says GP Transco has those intervals. They say recommended by Freightliner, and they sample the oil change every oil change. They are reporting no problems thus far. Interesting. So they're sticking to the 70 or 75,000 or whatever it was, but they do an oil sample every oil change, and there is a good practice right there. There's a key practice. It's a little costly, but it's worth it to know what's in the oil. So oil sampling and testing, very important procedure in helping protect the engine. Good point, Jonathan. Something else that I always tried to do was have my engine maintained by the manufacturer rather than by a truck dealer. Like, Kenworth and Pete had trained Cat mechanics, but I preferred to take my engine right to a Cat dealer because those guys are right up on the latest and greatest things. So I always did that. So if you've got a Cummins, I recommend taking it to Cummins themselves rather than a truck dealer. Kathy says, yes, but what single owner operator could afford that testing so often? It's worth the money, I think. It's not, you've got to build that into your maintenance costs, and it is tougher for a single owner operator. But I still think it's worth doing. Now, maybe the owner operator, a single owner operator, wants to break that testing up into, doing it every 3 or 4 oil changes, for instance. That's up to whoever's running the financial picture for that truck. But the more often, the better, certainly. Do it as often as you can afford to do it if you plan on keeping the truck for a long time. Where was I there? Oh, Cummins, Cat. The early Cats recommended doing rolling in bearings, doing a bearing roll in every 500,000 miles, I believe it was. And then the newer ones, they kind of got away from that. But something else I'd like to do is I just used to drive that truck like I was driving Miss Daisy. I wouldn't flog it. I wouldn't over rev it. Certainly, you don't want to over rev your engine because that'll certainly hurt it, no matter whose motor it is. There's SoCal's here. SoCal, we're talking about how to preserve your engine, and I know you'll know a whole lot about that.
Adam Bennett coming in with a 50 bomb. My man, thank you very much for that. Gonna have to catch you guys later driving in Kansas, heading to the Missouri on via I-95 North. Gonna get tight and slow. Be back later. Thank you very much for the 50 beans. Adam Bennett, my man, thank you. Hamish K coming in with the 5 pounds as well. How's your Pete, Dave?
The Pete's doing all right. I'm pretty much going to park it here for the winter now. We've had nonstop rain, but that means that snow's not far away up here. So I don't take it out once it starts to snow. So I've got on my list of to-do things to pull the batteries out of it here within the next month or so and store the batteries.
Adam, if you're still here, have a safe drive, my friend.
Yes, safe drive, Adam. Thank you. SoCal says to send in an oil sample analysis costs about $27, which includes a prepaid envelope. So that's not expensive at all. That's not bad at all. I think just about everyone, if you own your own truck, I certainly think you could afford the $27 to do that. Because I think, yeah, and Roger agrees. He says he doesn't think that's out of the way. He thinks that's cheap, and I would agree with that. So, a good practice. Send in your oil samples all the time. Something else that you guys will probably have, and Kyle, I bet you Kyle has an opinion on this, but all sorts of guys now like to do engine mods, and they'll go to different companies to bump up the horsepower. And depending on what you do, there are things you can do to bump up the horsepower that cut back the engine life. So you've got to be pretty careful about doing stuff like that. And something else you'll need to remember, and it was interesting, I learned this from Kat. When I would take my Cat in to have work done on it or whatever, they would plug it into the computer and they could scan it, and right away they could tell whether I'd had the engine modified or done anything at all. They could tell by looking at the programming what had been done to that motor, and they told me that if it had been modified in a way not approved by Caterpillar, that would void the engine warranty. So I thought that was pretty interesting, and they could tell just by plugging it in. So I know, while it's kind of nice to have the extra horsepower when you need it, there's the downside to doing that too, because the engine manufacturers can tell.
Jonathan, thank you once again for the 5 beans. At what point do beans turn into bombs? Probably if you eat at Taco Bell, like beans turn into bombs there, and it's not the kind of bombs I'm talking about.
Oh man,
it'd be the kind of bombs you'd need a plunger for, unfortunately. So that's where beans turn into bombs.
Thank him for the 5 bombs.
Oh, it's beans at that point.
Oh,
usually not single digits, but usually single digits I refer to as beans, and then 10, 20, 30, whatever is bombs.
Tim Fields says, I would never mod one of these new engines. They're too fragile with the emissions, and the DPF could plug up easier. Tim, completely agree. Now, something else along those lines too is, here we are with these new engines, and you're not allowed to modify them. So then, all of a sudden, because of the chip shortage, the DEF sensors become unavailable, and the trucks are shutting down. So all along we've been told that we can't modify these engines or do deletes on these new engines or anything like that until all of a sudden we run out of the sensors. And now they're advocating that you can delete the DEF sensor need just to get the engine running again, after thousands of trucks have been parked over this, and all sorts of owner operators have lost thousands of dollars in work just because they were sitting, because they were afraid to try to find a workaround. They didn't know how to do a workaround, and who did. But I guess now the dealers are working on a workaround around that missing sensor that is approved by the EPA. So thanks a lot for all of that there, EPA. Jeff Rees, Taco Bell is a natural laxative. I think we're back to the beans conversation here. I should have let Nick handle that one.
Speaking of letting me handle things, Jonathan with the 20 bomb. It's a bomb this time, my man. No problem. I'm here for the humorous commentary. He gets a little dry sometimes, so I got to keep it spicy.
Man.
Keep it real.
Not too spicy though. We're not trying to make too many bombs here. Thank you for the Tony, Jonathan.
Yeah, Tim Field says, one of the guys at my work, his company truck has been in the shop for 2 months now because the DEF sensor is on major back order. Yeah, and there's thousands of trucks like that across the country right now waiting for these damn sensors that may show up in another month or may show up in another 5 months. But so now the EPA is allowing a workaround of the sensor, and the manufacturers are and dealerships are working on it. They're working on it. They haven't got one yet, but they're working on it. I tell you. I heard one on the news this morning that the California DMV is pushing out new students as far as 2 to 3 weeks to take their CDL test fresh. That's from SoCal. Jeez. Yeah, that's what SoCal says. Exactly the same word, even. Jeez. There's Kelly Patterson. One thing the government does exceptionally well is scrutinize them. Governments are all the same everywhere.
What does scrutinize all mean? I think it's supposed to be scrutinizing.
It means scrutinizing the hell out of everything. Over scrutinizing.
To go along with that comment, thank you very much for the 5 beans, Kelly. We appreciate the donation.
Yeah, thanks, Kelly. Hey, Roddy, good afternoon from Iowa. How are you doing? I'm doing good, Roddy. How are you, man? Tim Fields, so now we can start deleting the trucks now? Yes. I'm curious to know what the MX-13 Jack sounds like. Yeah, well, Tim, don't get too excited. I'm sure they'll be putting it back in place as soon as they possibly can. But as of right now you can do a delete on the sensor at least. Not all the stuff probably, but on the def sensor. SoCal says, and they complain about a driver shortage. Yup. The left hand not knowing what the right hand is doing. News Now Adirondack says they are making the crap new engines to frustrate everyone so they can sell electric trucks. This way the government has a stronger regulation on the fuel source. That's an interesting theory. And along with that, I was reading here this week now that because of the price of electricity during peak times and low times, now the trucking companies are trying to calculate when they should plug their trucks in, their electric trucks in. Not when they need charging, but when it's cheapest to do the charging. So I hadn't thought of that, but all of a sudden that's become a factor with these electric trucks. It's always something. Matthew Conrad, he's out of here. Take care. Take care, Conrad. Drive safe. Something else I like to do, and we were talking about this, I believe it was last stream about the engine coolant. And I used to change mine every other year and test it every fall, actually, before it got too cold. I'd have it tested. And someone else mentioned, and that was what I did too, was to swap out the filter, the coolant filter annually. And that was something else that I did that is a good practice. All these things I think contributed to the life of my engine. I never had one blow on me. And there was something else I never did was I never waited till they blew. I was always just a bugger for preventive maintenance. And that was what Matthew Thomas had said early on in the conversation.
Speaking of blowing, Del Taco, is that a brand name or is that a chain? I'm unfamiliar with it. Del Taco beans. That must be a brand name. I've not heard of that before. Jonathan coming in with the 10 beans. My man. I guess it would be a bomb at that point, going by my logic. Anyways, was talking to Freightliner Tech, and the 2022s are having issues breaking valve pushers since they can't get the parts. They're fixing it with the software updates. Thank you for the 10 bomb, Jonathan.
Oh, interesting stuff there, Jonathan. Huh. Of breaking valve pushers.
Oh, it is a chain. Okay, I see. Yeah, it must be an American-only chain because we don't have them up here in Canada. But if they're a downgrade from Taco Bell, I didn't know such a thing exists, but that sounds ungodly.
Gone to talking about engines to talking about Taco Bell.
Keep it real.
Jonathan says they're breaking valve pushers. So, Jonathan, is that in the Detroit engines or? Yeah, it must be in the Detroits, I guess, that they're having that trouble. Huh. Let me know, but I think that's my guess anyway. Interesting. Everybody's talking about Taco Bell now. Cuban 960, hey Dave, would you ever pay to travel in space? I was following William Shatner today, actually, to get a little off topic. His flight was only 11 minutes. I thought, man, I hope that was a freebie. He sure wasn't up there very long. Sean says, my truck has 280,000 miles with the original factory engine and fluid still going strong. Good, Sean. Let's hope it keeps going for another 800,000 miles anyway. Something else I did too is I kept an eye on my turbos. I swapped out my turbos fairly frequently. Like, not, every 400,000 miles roughly, I'd swap out the turbo. And then, when I took it off and took it apart and wiggled the fins, you could find some play in the fins with the bearings there. So it meant I was doing it, before the turbo came apart and spit parts down into the motor, because that doesn't do the motor any good. Roger Penske says there's absolutely no excuse for a sensor not lasting a long time except they are made cheaply. Yeah, Roger, you're right. But you know where that stuff's all made, don't you? And that's why we're still waiting for them, and they're on the containers out off Long Beach. Carlos says he loves our videos. Thank you, Carlos. Good job, Grandpa. I'm going to check my image here. I must look fairly old these days. Hey, I don't feel old, but I get a lot of that. Barnabas Key says, is the problem with the new issues with these email engines just compound the reason to drop out of keeping your CDL? That's a good point. That's an interesting point. And it's frustrating to have a truck that keeps breaking down all the time. And no wonder some of the guys are leaving the industry, because they're spending too much time on the side of the road, broken down with these new trucks. And what a lot of the carriers pay for downtime? Nothing. So, yeah, it's a factor. It's a factor. It's hurting the driver pool that we've got these engines that just don't last very long or run very well. It's a huge problem.
Not to make a pun here, but some food for thought. If you guys want to let me know in chat what some of the worst dining experiences bowel-wise when it comes to fast food. Just let me know the change. Not just the change. I don't have to know the food, but I'm just curious to know what are some of the most reactive chains that you've ever been to.
Chain reaction.
Yeah, no pun intended. Anyways, Jimmy coming in with the 5 beans, my man. What is your opinion on Mac? I hear a lot of bad, but all the owners have nothing but praise for the truck. He also comes in with another 5 and says, thank you for all your work. Great help to new drivers. Thank you very much for the 10 bomb. Well, let's acknowledge this, and then we'll come back to the conversation at hand here.
We need a poll.
Captain Skinny says, is hooking up and pulling doubles really a pain like everyone says?
You didn't answer his question.
What's your opinion on Max?
Yeah, come back here, Sailor.
All right, okay. Sorry, I have to go back.
You got to take one question at a time here.
I have to go back. There are very few Macs that do over-the-road work. The guys around here that have Macs use them in dump trucks primarily, and they have had good luck with them. I only have one horror story for the new Mac engines, and that was from a friend of mine, and he was telling me that a construction company had bought a few new Macs and used them for cement trucks, cement rollers, and the brand new Mac engine quit when they had a load of cement on, so the barrel quit turning, and Mac couldn't get the engine up and running in time, and the cement hardened in the barrel because the barrel wasn't spinning, and they had to write off that truck and trailer, basically. Not the trailer, it's a single body. It's not a trailer on a fifth wheel hookup. But they wrote that truck off because they couldn't, get the barrel off the truck, and the whole thing was so interconnected that the insurance company wrote the truck off. And on last report, the carrier that had owned the dump truck was chasing Mac for for a new truck because of that situation. I never did hear how that turned out. So, Captain Skinny, back to your question. If you're hooking up A trains, that's a bit of a pain in the butt, and they do wiggle as they travel down the road. If you're hooking up and pulling B trains, they're pretty nice to pull and they're really easy to hook up. So it depends on the double setup that you're talking about. But the A trains, like what FedEx runs, I think those are a pain in the butt to hook up, frankly. But the B trains, I like them.
Yeah, it won't let you.
Hey, Dave, I'm only 24. You're saying I've been a trucker too long because I take my wide turns in my car? Maybe. I don't know how long is too long, but if it's already affecting you that way, Tim, it's just a sign of too much driving the truck and not enough time in the car. At least that's my wife's theory anyway. But man, Captain Nice Guy says there's another captain here. Yes, there is. I was just talking to him. Okay. Grilled Moral. The old Macs were very good, but thankfully I only spent a few days in one. I drove a Mac 300 Mac. God, back in the 70s. And it was a really good old truck. That darn thing would start in the coldest weather. I ran them up in northern Alberta. It was a company truck. And that darn thing, no matter how cold it got overnight, even not plugged in, it would just fire up every morning. It would chug and bang for a while, but it was a good old engine, boy.
Jonathan with the 5. Once again, I bought a case of MREs for emergencies. It's not a fast food chain, but apparently the military loves bombs. I'm unfamiliar with that.
Do you know what? Rations.
Oh, they're rations? Yeah. That would probably not be the best tasting food. Yeah, so I see a couple White Castles here. Yeah, I know White Castle, notorious. Crystal, I heard, is like really, really bad. What else we got here? I heard...
Steak and Shake.
Yeah, but no one's saying Steak and Shake is given the bowel movements. I know Arby's is bad.
Scott Kuhn says, I work at FedEx, ground hookup for doubles for 18 years. It's not that hard. I have tricks to hook up easier. And I bet you that's right, Scott. Thanks for throwing that in. The longer you do it, I bet you do develop good tricks to make it a little easier on you. I remember when I was first hooking up A-trains in the yard, and it was just, the converters were already hooked to the second trailer, so you couldn't really drag them around. You literally had to hit that spindle hitch right on the money and just drop it down because you couldn't move them very much at all, and I found that a real pain. Not so bad if the converter's not hooked up first.
Golden Corral as well. Have we ever ate Golden Corral? I don't think we have. You can just tell by the sign that it's going to give you issues.
Kelly Patterson says, there's been a couple of times I almost drove my personal vehicle into an open way station. Yep. Yeah. And, I even in the car these days, I find myself holding my breath coming up to a scale, hoping it's closed. Like, go figure. Tim Field, Five Guys was by far the worst for me. Did food poisoning for a week. Five Guys. And that's one of Nick's favorites. He'll be sorry to hear that. Where did he go there? SoCal Sam said something about In-N-Out rules. And yeah, there it is. In-N-Out rules. And God, they even among burger chains, other burger chains rate In-N-Out very highly. Interesting factoid.
Yeah, I've heard good things about In-N-Out.
Jeffrey's Flying J mystery meat. Can back you up for days. Stuff has like a 60-year shelf life.
We've done videos on backing up before, but not those kind of videos.
Oh boy.
Oh, Golden Corral is like a buffet. It's interesting.
I think they're like a bonanza. I think it's like that, but I'm not sure.
You'd be making a bonanza.
It's a banana split.
I change my Cascadia oil every 20,000 miles. Is that an overkill? Full synthetic? No, Pure Hoops. Maybe it's a little bit overkill, but I think that's good practice. The sooner you can catch whatever's in the oil and get it out of there from going through the motor all the time, the better. That's my take on it anyway.
Here's how you know I haven't fully matured yet. Taco Bell poo-poo. That seems to be the general consensus for Taco Bell, yeah. It seems to be right near the bottom of the barrel.
You're getting a new one in town.
Competing for last place is probably not a good thing, but...
So I'm completely off track now with the food conversation. McDonald's once had a mouse in a burger they served.
Golden Corral was pretty good when they first started, but they've been going downhill for the last 10 years.
Tim Fields says Cane's chicken can also... I ate that one time in the truck and I almost drove my...
truck into the bathroom. I had to go so bad. See, if all drivers had that kind of work ethic when it came to their load, they wanted to get there so bad.
Jim Nash says Tinkerbell. I don't even know what that means anymore. Tinkerbell. Can't be a compliment. SoCal says his wife detests Taco Bell. God.
I imagine most people do, yeah.
I actually, near the end of my driving time, found something I could eat at Taco Bell with not being sick. But basically, it was just ground hamburger and a tortoise shell? Taco shell.
Yeah, close enough. Yeah, don't
close
ask
enough.
for the tortoise shell. You never know what you're going to get.
Mitchell Max says Cub Foods rotisserie, and then he's gone. Grilled Morrow just thought of a horse joke about Golden Corral and other trucks.
You didn't even finish your last comment there.
It disappeared from my screen.
It doesn't go that fast. Cub Foods rotisserie chicken is delicious, hot, and safe. Only $7 for a whole chicken. Cub Foods, I've not heard of that one again. Must be another American chain that we don't have the luxury of enjoying.
Anyone who ever had to go so bad they pulled over on the shoulder because they were in the middle of nowhere. And the comment's gone. Probably just as well. No, not Taco Bell. It's Tinkerbell. Oh, that's the name for it. The new name for Taco Bell. Oh, I'm completely lost now.
The kind of load you want to deliver. Let's put it like that. Chimfield.
Chase the Master says from talking trucks to Taco Bell, I love the streams no matter where we get into. I kind of do too.
Got to keep the conversation going.
I still wake up in a cold sweat from a Taco Bell experience back in '91. Well, if we're going to talk food, I have to tell you how sick I was from a Subway. A Subway in Las Cruces, New Mexico. Got food from them. And I was in a rest area for 3 days. I was so sick from the food poisoning, and I got that from a Subway.
That's pretty good. Donald's angry. Taco Hell.
Taco Hell.
I don't know why I've not heard of that. That's pretty good.
Anyway, I don't know if there's still a Subway in the pilot at Las Cruces, but I'd avoid it like the plague.
SoCal Sandman. I don't know if I can actually read this, but I'm going to anyways. I had a colonoscopy last year. The preparation for that really sucked. Well, it depends on where you eat, I guess.
Oh, God.
Yeah, Evan Westbrook. Yeah, Subway. Subway is one that gets me just about every time. Subway can be nasty.
Crystal's had me reenacting the bathroom scene from Dumb and Dumber. That's from Mike Rainey. I haven't seen Dumb and Dumber, but I bet you that's not pretty.
It's just imagine if you were trying to paint a room, but you weren't using paint.
Free colonoscopy at the airport, courtesy of TSA. That's from Peter. Wow. I don't know why they won't let us join the ATA. Oh, God. Hey, there's something I was going to mention, but pre-stream is the ATA actually did something I like. I'm just stunned I can hardly get over it, but they're fighting the vaccine mandate. The official position of the ATA is to fight the vaccine mandate. I never thought we'd be in agreement with anything. Donald's angry. Subway is the devil. The one in Las Cruces is. I can testify to that. Donald's angry. Oh God. Oh. Grilled Mortal. And Grilled Mortal takes the cake. Kathy's on her knees crying. You can stucco the bathroom walls with the prep. You can probably hear Kathy in the background there.
David, Subway meatball sandwiches give me a meatball explosion.
Oh man.
I need a shirt that says that. Subway meatball sandwiches give me a meettball explosion.
Oh God. Trucker Harold says, howdy everyone from Long Beach. Absolutely busy here in the port of LA. I friggin' bet it is. Trucker Harold helping solve the supply shortage down there at the port of LA. I heard, what did I hear? Like 70 ships backed up out there now? Something wild anyway. And apparently it's the same at the Chinese end. They're all backed up down there too.
Jonathan, thank you very much for another 5. Yeah, I think we might need to rename the stream at this point. It's become more of a the evils of fast food restaurants than anything
Jeffrey
else.
has obliterated an entire sewage system in a small town in Kansas from a Subway seafood sandwich.
Taco Bell beans are made using real Mexican spring water.
Oh God!
These are all coming from voices of experience, right here.
Yeah, that's the sad part. That's part of trucking
stomach.
for a living. That's part of trucking for a living. It's a sad statement. We've all been sick on the road from the food they offer us out there on the interstate.
I've never had Chick-fil-A, but I've heard pretty good things about it. I don't know if you guys, not in the way of moving your lunch from one end to the other, but I heard Chick-fil-A is good. I don't know if any of you guys confirm that.
Tim Field says, "How do we get into this? I'm dying." Kathy's in the same boat as you, Tim. It's a lost cause at this point, but we'll keep trying to sled on. Get a mop and pail, Grilled Mortal. Oh, jeez.
Popeye's legit the best chicken sandwich. I'll have to try it if I'm ever around one. I know we do have them in Canada, but they're not very common. That's not the trash floating out in the Atlantic.
That's what I'm laughing about right now. That's not the trash floating out in the Atlantic, Jeffries.
That's a pretty good one, yeah. Taco Bell is the salmonella lettuce king.
Yeah, Peter. Yeah, salmonella lettuce king. Oh man. Is there an engine comment anywhere here?
On this.
Did you see Jonathan's comment there, Nick? Didn't mean to derail the topic with the beans comment. It's been
I read
hilarious.
that a while ago, Chief. You got to catch up here.
That's all right. That's all right,
though.
Jonathan. That's all right. We forgive you.
That's why I said we needed to rename the title of the stream.
Yeah. Hamish K. Long-haired Kenworths and Peterbilts are better than Volvos, and PACCAR is best. Well, we're back to trucks. Thanks, Hamish. And lately the PACCARs have been having sensor issues. So not just the depth sensor either. So, I had been a supporter of PACCAR, but right now, if I had my choice of motors, I could buy it. I'd probably go with the Detroit route right now. They seem to be having the best success, but it goes up and down.
Jonathan, I'm surprised. Oh, God. This is a good idea. I agree with this, but I don't know if they would follow through with this. I'm surprised Subway hasn't propped up a porta potty next to the counter due to COVID. That would probably be a good idea.
Kelly Patterson says should give the stream to Comedy Central. should do something with it. God knows what.
Had chicken fried steak.
Oh no.
had chicken fried steak from the Albert Lee truck stop. I don't even have to read the rest of that. You can already guess what it's gonna say. But I've never had chicken fried steak before. It's something that either of you would recommend or no?
I've never had it.
I don't like fried foods.
I've never had it.
I heard it's alright. I don't know what anyone else would think though.
Hey, SoCal, what are some of the practices that you've put into play to keep your motor going so long? That was something specifically I wanted to ask SoCal, because he's got a high mileage engine like me, so I'd love to know some of the things he's done and recommends.
Yes, Kelly, we are talking about the engines of intestinal destruction. Hot dogs from the truck stop off north of Las Vegas made me sick for a week.
Oh, be food poisoning. Tesla must be doing bad because I haven't heard anything about them. Plus, haven't seen a new one yet. I bet the engine on electric trucks would be extremely more maintenance on them. That's from Daniel Meredith.
Electric what now?
Tesla.
You know what? Yeah, electric what?
The electric trucks would be.
Oh, okay. See, that's what we were hoping you said. It didn't. I don't think it came out sounding like that.
Daniel, the long and the short on Tesla is they were supposed to come out in 2017. Then they were supposed to come out in 2019. Then they were supposed to come out in 2022. And Elon Musk has made a statement saying they just can't get parts. They just can't get parts for them, and that's been the big delay, according to Elon Musk. Has supply chain disruption affected engine parts significantly, Peter? And the answer to that is yes. It's affected everything significantly, but among those things are the parts supply for the engines and these chips and the sensors and just goofy things like turbos, for instance. All sorts of, they can't rebuild an engine right now because they can't get half the parts for them. It's been part of the supply chain problem, has affected the engines. SoCal says change the bypass filter every 25,000 miles. So there's something he's done, a good recommendation. Thank you, SoCal. Shannon says, I saw something about Tesla getting fined. Yeah, I think, Shannon, what the deal was with that is Tesla is supposed to report the autonomous accidents, the number. Every time they have an autonomous accident, they're supposed to report it and keep a file on it, and they haven't been doing that, and they've been caught at the fact that they haven't been doing that. So the National Transportation Safety Board, I believe it is mad at Tesla and talking about fines. But that's why, because every time one crashed, they'd kind of shove it under the rug and hope nobody noticed. I believe that's the deal there.
Culver's I've not heard of. Chester's Chicken is one place that I will never eat again. Yeah, you can just kind of tell by the name that it's going to be a raunchier restaurant. Jonathan coming in with the 5. Hey, Dave, when are you guys coming to GP? You better let us know ahead of time. Maybe you guys can, I know he doesn't say this, but maybe you guys can reserve a restaurant to eat at beforehand.
Jonathan, they're saying now that they're going to open up the border to Canadians crossing into the U.S. sometime in November. They haven't even set a date on that yet. But, for almost 2 years, unless, you're in the truck, we couldn't get across the border. So it's been a while. We'd like to come down there, but the border's still closed, and we'll have to look at that again when the border does finally open up. And even now they're talking restrictions on who can cross when they do open the border. So we'll have to see how that plays out. Culver's
is a Midwest chain.
Tim
so
Field.
What kind of food would they serve there then? I'm curious. I got a better idea for cheaper fuel for the truck, maybe biodiesel fuel. And given the discussion thus far, you could imagine how he suggests that we make the biodegradable food, or the fuel rather.
Tim Field says, Kathy, yes, always see the stickers speeding because I got to poop. Oh, man.
When you gotta go, you gotta go. Oh, okay. So it's just a pretty standard chain. I'll have to look that one up. I've not heard of that one.
Donald's angry
Your
says
burger
butter
place in
burger.
Marco Island. Cheeseburger. Cheeseburger.
I think that was just exclusive to the area, though. I don't think that was a chain.
We were in one in Buffalo.
I don't know if any of you guys have ever heard of Cheeseburger, but should just be CHI, I believe. Burger.
CHEE.
EE.
SoCal says burgers, fries, and ice cream. Nick,
Yeah, I just read that one.
Okay.
Aloud.
it just popped up here.
Yeah, Cheeseburger. I don't know if any of you guys heard of that. I'll have to look up Culver's, though.
Mike Greeny says no parts for trucks, but plenty for a rocket for an 11-minute trip to space. slamming Jeff Bezos and Amazon there. Yeah.
Kelly Patterson, you come to GP and I'll make you my signature dish. Do you already know what it is, Mum? Or
It could have been one of his pasta dishes. He has several.
is it one of the pasta ones, Kelly, or no?
Maybe the meatloaf.
I'm curious to know what that is. Probably good. Tim Field, the best maintenance you can do for your truck is don't eat Taco Bell when you aren't spending, or sorry, so you aren't speeding to the closest bathroom. That is pretty good preventative maintenance.
Oh. Yeah. Hard on the suspension too when you're diving for the shoulder.
Hot pluckers.
Icy Profits, Culver's is delicious. Yeah, I'm definitely going to look that up when I get off stream here. Frozen custard, huh?
Joe Cummings says, truck parts availability. I went to 3 Walmarts yesterday trying to buy sneakers and not a single pair in my size. Yeah, this
your
supply
schnoz?
shortage is everything. It's just everything under the sun. Engine parts, running shoes. My dad works at Mac Volvo. The sleeper Macs are just Volvos with a different body. That's Captain Skinny. There's the other captain. Captain, nice guy. Captain Skinny. My dad works at Mac Volvo.
Yeah, that's a pretty good bridge, Chase. What is the worst thing you could eat in a truck? And imagine just like, what's the worst thing you've ever eaten in a truck? There, super trucker. Hello?
I'm thinking.
Well, think fast. It shouldn't be that hard.
I still keep coming back to Subway because
Maybe you have too many options.
my
to pick
experience
from.
with Subway in Las Cruces.
What about like messy foods though?
Tim Fields says best way to lose weight for the scale. Oh man, any scale.
In terms of messy food though, like anything like that that's ever just gotten.
No, I was never big into anything messy anyway, as far as food's concerned.
Yeah, I guess it's pretty hard to throw steak all over the wall anyway. So. Jonathan, what a resume you got here. Thank you for the 5 again. Really appreciate the consistent donations. It means a lot to us. I was a chef for 10 years and then 5 dining for 5. Let me know when you're coming. I'll be sure there are no bombs on the menu. That's actually really cool.
Kelly Patterson says potato leek and bacon soup is his specialty, is what I think he's.
That would be really good. That would be right up your alley, too.
That'd be
'cause
right up my alley.
Except nobody wants to be in the room.
They have Tim
Eats
Hortons
soup.
down there. I don't know if you guys have had Tim Hortons potato bacon soup, but every time that he goes there, he pretty much orders that. So that dish in particular, Kelly, is very close to his heart. Jonathan, I'd also be curious to know if you've ever worked at like any restaurants that I'd be able to look up. I'm just curious about that. Be kind of curious to know what kind of fine dining establishments you've worked in. Canned chicken and dumplings. It's a good thing I'm going for dinner after this because I'm, or maybe not. Maybe it's not a good thing I'm going for dinner.
It's made me
after
think
this.
I'm not going to eat again for a while.
I broke a tooth off on a Subway sub. What kind of sub did you get?
There's Subways everywhere, and I really don't know why. But like Mr. Submarine, they made good subs, but
Yeah,
Subway,
we know you like Mr. Sub.
I just never got along with Subway. And then after the Las Cruces thing, that was it for me, man. Josh Bulldog, Dave, can we make the Mac E7 or Mac MP8 last long? Absolutely, Josh. And that's what we've been talking about, all the ways to baby the engines to make them last. Now, there are going to be manufacturing flaws in the occasional engine. But there's nothing we can do about that. But if you treat them right, do a lot of preventative maintenance, don't be shy about it. Yeah, some of these engines will last over 1 million miles. I've got one, SoCal's got one. You can do that. You can do that if you treat them right. And considering what it costs to replace them, well worth the time invested if you take care of them, in my opinion. Roger Penske, if the Mexicans, Hondurans, and Haitians can cross the border, then Dave and Kathy can cross the border. Just tell them you're refugees and have tested positive for COVID and you're in. It doesn't make much sense there, does it, Roger? I just puzzle over the whole thing all the time now. I just don't know who's running the show down there, but it's something else, man. Not that we've got any better guy up here, but I tell you. SoCal says this has been a very appetizing chat. Well, I think it's put me off food for a week. Not that would hurt me, but
I doubt that.
yeah. And Kathy says she doubts that.
Maybe like 5 minutes.
Yeah. 5 minutes now. They're
There'll
saying.
be pie after stream.
Jonathan, I saw your comment, by the way. I'm just jotting all these down. I'm going to be sure to look at them after the stream. Thank you for putting that up.
And Rich Bistro in Brandon, Florida, they closed due to COVID. Was the sous chef for 4 years, the Guild House and Hyde Park Steakhouse in Columbus, Ohio. Holy smokes.
Yeah, I just said that.
That's a bit of a resume. It's as if Biden was being paid purposely to ruin our country with a foreign entity. SoCal, don't even get me started on that. We've got the same going on up here. Grilled Mortal says this has been somewhat exhausting. Pun. Yup.
Okay, here's someone saying Chester's chicken is actually pretty good. There's an up-and-coming chain called Crispy Crunchies with salsa. Apparently that's really good. I don't know how you'd make a whole restaurant off of that, but hey, I'd still try it.
Does anyone know any tricks for making the new Detroits, the DD15 and 16, for making them last well? I know that the regular stuff like frequent oil changes and preventive maintenance, but does anyone know any of the specific things that the DD15 and 16 like to help their longevity? Daniel Meredith says, I have a question about Canada. Do they have scanners that scan the truck and trailer? And do they ask you, are you from the U.S., Canada, or like do near Texas and Mexico? Yeah, there are scanners at both customs and at the scales here in Ontario where I live. And the scanners at the scales can actually check your axle spacing and stuff. As you're coming in the ramp, they'll check axle spacing and weights and stuff on the pre-scale. It's an incredible system. It's a scary system, but yeah, they got scanners here, boy. I'll tell you. White Castle's nasty to eat, even if you're standing still. That's from
Scroll down, you're
SoCal.
about 25 pages behind.
Oh man. Roger Penske says, Culversa is a very good operation out of the land of cheese. Good burgers and even better frozen custard and ice cream. Trucker Herald says that's why truckers have a high rate of heart disease.
At least the general consensus is that Culver's seems to be good. I'd be intrigued to look that up after the stream.
Oh,
So on that note, folks, we should probably start wrapping things up for today.
yes. Well, thank you all for joining us. I don't know how the conversation deteriorated so rapidly, but it has. But we've enjoyed it. Always enjoy it. So thank you all very much for joining us.
Thank you for everyone who commented today and participated in the chat. It was quite a I don't know what descriptive word I'd like to use here, but it was something, all right.
It was entertaining.
Thank you to everyone who donated or just came out and watched the stream with us today. Appreciate all you guys.
Yes. Thank you all.
Keep the rubber side down. I'm out of here.
Stay safe. Keep the rubber side down. Thanks again for joining us today. We'll see you on the back hall. Good night, everybody.